Good Thursday evening, and welcome to This and That, the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic, we hope to bring you guests and topics you'll find both fun and captivating from the worlds of local politics, arts and leisure, pop culture, and beyond. Our sponsors for This and That, the podcast, are the American Legion Post 272 on North Mountain Road in Lingelstown, Team PA AAU Basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. Thank you once again to these great local businesses for their continued support. Bill, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine. I was in a major rush to get here, but I'm here. Glad to be here. I'm looking forward to the chat with our guest tonight.
And our guest tonight, let's just give it away, and then we'll bring him in a couple of minutes. Tom Russell, meteorologist, chief meteorologist Tom Russell. I think everybody in the area knows who he is, and this didn't happen overnight, Bill. This took a while to put together. You know?
Yeah. I'm glad I'm glad I befriended Tom on Facebook because I played a big role in snagging him for tonight.
Right. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So anyway, what episode number is this, Bill?
42.
Yes, very good. Great job. You only knew that because 2 nights ago it was 41, right?
Well, I studied the platform where it has it on there so I can get it.
Oh man. Okay, upcoming, and we just kind of put this one together over the last couple of days. You and I privately we've discussed Colonial Park Mall a lot over the last year or so.
Yep.
We both I live very close to it, but we both live in the same community as Colonial Park Mall. You in Lingelstown and me right here in Colonial Park. But a lot of people want to know what's going on, and without giving too much away and without holding our guest up too much, we both walk there, for exercise now and then. And the mall is still kind of in like great shape. And it's clean, and they're keeping all the real plants growing, and they must be in there watering plants and mopping floors. And
they have windows decorated, even though there's no one there. They have decorated windows.
Look great. Like absolutely. So we have Jeff Clare, and remind me, Jeff is he was the economic development manager, I believe.
He was definitely involved with economic development. Yes,
for Lower Paxton, he was until like maybe a year ago, something like that, or so. Like that. But the guy's a really bright guy. He's a friend of the show, and it's hard to find somebody that knows more about economic development in Lower Paxton Township and specifically Colonial Park Mall. So our disclaimer is the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who voice them, and do not necessarily reflect the positions held by This and That, the podcast, as an entity, Bill or myself, or these sponsors who support the show. So after all of that ado, let's bring him in. Chief Meteorologist Tom Russell. How are you, Tom?
We're good. Now, which one's this and which one's that? I'm trying to
we haven't figured. Maybe once we get a year under our belt, we'll figure that out.
I'm the shady character with my outfit.
So, he is the shady character. So, and I didn't mention with CBS 21 News and weather more specifically.
Yes.
23, 20, going on 24 years, I think.
On 24 this,
wow.
This year. Can you believe that?
Let's start with this, Tom. Please dispel the rumors that meteorologists are just kind of a pretty face that you prop up there. Somebody with charisma. I think the average person thinks there's like little meteorology geeks in the back room gathering all the information, and they're just kind of funneling it over to you.
Yeah, you're talking about TV meteorologists, right?
Right. Nobody behind me, guys. If you look at the history of television weather, you go back to the 50s and 60s, and the weather really was the kind of the comic relief between the hard news and the sports. Yeah. So there was that original, thing where it was just a pretty face, and they didn't have any meteorology background. So in the 80s, when radar really came of age, they needed somebody who could understand the science. And all through the 90s, it became about getting your qualifications and being a meteorologist and all that. So it really changed in the time from when I started to now.
So do you have a background, formal education in any kind of science or meteorology more specifically?
Yeah. So I started out in radio, And then I got a job doing weather, and the TV station that I was working for sent me back to school to get my meteorology degree. So I kind of did it a little bit, not a straight path, but yeah, it became important, as I mentioned, to be a meteorologist. And then you have to earn a seal from what they call the American Meteorological Society, and there's another organization called the National Weather Association. So you get those little seals that you see down in the bottom of the TV, and those became important for credibility and for the TV station.
So there you go, all you doubters and theorists, conspiracists. He is a meteorologist. He does gather the weather too. Bill, come on in, buddy.
Yeah, one of my things, so I have it on path to WHP. Now, you talked about radio. I'm a radio guy. I really like radio. I saw myself as a DJ or on-air type guy. But where did you start? Where did you get your start in radio?
So I'm from Baltimore, but I went to school at the University of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio. So my first radio and TV gigs were there. I did radio, but what really caught my fancy was my senior year. This is going back a ways, but if you remember, before there was like Fox Television, there were independent stations in every market. And those independent stations would run cartoons in the afternoon. So they had an all call for somebody to host the cartoons in the afternoon. This is on the independent station in Dayton, and I got the gig. So I would go in once a week, and we would tape these little vignettes that ran between the cartoons. And I was really surprised how many college kids watch cartoons, because they're like, oh, you're the guy from TV. So that's really where I got my on-air start. And then from there, I went to Baltimore at B104. I actually worked with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck was just the top 40 DJ at the time. Learned a lot from him. And then on to Portland, Maine.
Wow.
A stop in the Virgin Islands, and then back to Pennsylvania, where I met my wife at Warm Radio. If you were a radio geek, I know there's a Warm in this market, but at the time, WARM was a huge blowtorch AM station in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton market. From there, San Diego. And when I worked in San Diego, the radio station was teamed up with a TV station. And I thought, I could do that. So I cut a tape doing weather, ended up in Panama City, Florida, starting out, and then to Orlando, and then back to Harrisburg.
So now, you've been able to kind of exhale now for 24 years, right?
Well, yeah, my wife's like, I'm not, doing it the rest of my life. So, when you have kids and you're moving every 2 or 3 years, she's like, well, let's go back. Like I said, I'm from Baltimore, and my parents were starting to age at the time, and I really wanted to be back here. My wife's from Mountaintop, if you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah,
so this was the perfect in between for those two locations.
Now, Tom, when you started out, were you beyond the felt board weather reports?
Yeah, we definitely came in on the tail end. This area, everybody remembers Chuck Roads, and there were so many ways of doing weather. There were felt boards that were basically kind of using the Velcro idea, where they'd slap the sun on. And if people remember Chuck, he would have three different boards, and he would pull one out, would be a national map. He'd push that one in like pocket doors, and then he'd pull another one out, and that would be like the Pennsylvania map, and he'd push that one in. But when I came here, to answer your question, we also owned WLYH, which was over in over by Mount Gretna. And when I went here, that was still it wasn't an active station, but the studio was still there, and they had literally the metal boards with magnets on them. And I always wanted to do weather that way, so I was on the tail end of that as computers were coming along, but definitely have an appreciation for how the weather used to be done.
Now, did you have any kind of relationship at all with Chuck Rhodes? Just being in the same kind of realm? And
he's always been wonderful to me. I mean, he was the man. Obviously, on the tail end of his career when I came in here, but since then we've stayed in touch, and he's always great to joke around with. And he was really such the king of this area. So I always looked up to him, and I always thought, well, if I have half of his talent, I'd be happy.
Yeah, what a personality!
Oh my gosh, right, exactly.
Yeah. So let's jump into this. I'm going to use a term for the first time ever. Weather events. Okay. Has that been a word? Like I'm almost 60. I don't remember that term being used like 30 or 40 years ago, but a weather event is something out of the ordinary, something that blows hard, drops a lot of precipitation on us, is dangerous to people. what weather events have you been on location? Have been out there with, a hat and a scarf and, things just blowing around? Do you have any that have like a name attached to them?
Oh,
Meaning
yeah.
tornadoes, hurricanes?
Yeah, I was going to say, coming up in Florida, that was a big one. There was a hurricane. Actually, it wasn't even a hurricane. It was a tropical storm named George when I was in Panama City. And we were doing coverage all day. And we were just getting off the air after 24 hours of coverage. And working my way back to my townhouse at the time, the water kept getting higher and higher and higher. And when I got to my house, water was halfway up the wall, and my whole first floor was flooded. So as I'm on the air telling people to, be safe and get out of harm's way, my own house was flooded. There was nothing I could do about it. So that was a big one. But coming here, the President's Day storm of 2003, after living in San Diego and Florida, all of a sudden I was introduced to 2 feet of snow. If you remember that one, it was President's Day of 2003. That was a huge one.
Right.
We've been through a lot here. The biggest one for me is probably the flood of, there's a couple times. The flood of 2011, where the Susquehanna got up to 24, 25 feet. That had, the Swatera flooded, all the creeks and streams flooded. And we did that one 2018. Let's see. Do you guys remember the Valentine's Day storm? We were just talking about that because Valentine's Day next week, where it snowed and then it changed over. It was icy crust, snowed again, and then another icy crust. And there was this big backup on I-78 out towards Lebanon, Berks County. You remember that?
Yeah, people were stuck. They had to stay overnight on the highway.
So National Guard had to come in and bring them water and food, and it was days before they could get them off the highway. So I was out in those. President's Day. Hurricanes are always very fascinating. A lot of coverage of hurricanes in Florida. The biggest one here, I guess, would be the Campbelltown tornado. So
you were here for that. You were here for that?
Yeah, I was here for that, and I was actually just coming back from Ocean City, Maryland. I think we came back that morning, which was crazy. But I do remember the sky being green. So many people talk about that right before severe weather. So we did the coverage here, and we were getting all these phone calls in the newsroom that things were really bad. And I drove out there, and I was just blown away by what I'd seen because I'd covered a lot of hurricanes. To see that kind of devastation, I mean, some houses were totally ripped off their foundation. Some were barely touched. And one of the things I take to my school talks about talking to kids is I have the front page of the Patriot News showing that. You can see 2 houses that the only things left is the foundation.
Yeah.
And then other parts of the neighborhood are barely touched. But the one that sticks in my mind was it was Country Squire Estates, if you remember the name of the neighborhood. Just out of the neighborhood was a brick home. And through the brick wall was a 2x4.
Really?
Lodged. And think about the winds that it would take for a 2x4 to go through brick and get lodged. I mean, that's an image that sticks with me.
Hey, Tom, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to just finish out with that topic here with the Campbelltown, the situation there. Meteorology or scientifically speaking, how did that tornado come down? Not in Palmyra and not further into Lebanon County, but how did it just kind of sweep down right there in Campbelltown? And it was known as the Campbelltown tornado. I'm sure it might have caught a little bit of the outskirts of Campbelltown, but I always found that odd.
Well, it's always ironic because everybody kind of thinks the tornado just lands and then it goes, but it hops, it recedes, it comes back down. It's not technically a tornado until that funnel cloud touches the ground. So that's the definition. But you see that on any kind of storm track when you look at a tornado. Oh, it touched down here and then it raised up and then it touched down here. Matter of fact, that same day, if you're familiar with I-83, there's a big building there. I forget what the building was or what it was called at the time, right by Research Summit.
Mm-hmm.
That got clipped by that same tornado, that same cloud. When it came through, it took off one of those big air conditioning units.
Right.
And then if you follow the path, the same thing went to Campbelltown. So to answer your question, I mean, it just hit the hops and skips as it goes. And then if you looked from the neighborhood, it was right adjacent to the cornfield, and you can see all the leveled corn. So yeah, it was pretty fascinating to see them.
Yeah, we brought a little science into the show viewers. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I was just going to ask whether I know there's devastation in that housing development in Campbelltown, but did it cause damage in the surrounding area, or did it hop over that area?
No, like I said, the cornfield, they lost a good bit of the cornfield, but that was it. The one thing I always point out to people say, "Oh, the weather's worse than it used to be." I said, if that same storm happens 5 years earlier, there's no neighborhood there, and it just wipes out a little bit.
Yeah,
of it. Nobody thinks twice about it. So it just happened to be that was a fairly new neighborhood about 5 years, and they got wiped out. So no, beyond that, it really didn't do much.
So
yeah, I'm familiar with it because there's a great ice cream stand right there at the.
Yeah,
yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the meteorologists, the weather men and women are sitting around talking about other meteorologists, who's the goat? Who's the goat of TV meteorology? You have one of those people that go, man, I would like to be like that guy someday. Or, boy, did he have a great career.
Well, I think the big name that comes to my mind is a guy named James Spann, who's in Alabama. Okay. And he really revolutionized how we do severe weather. He would get up there and he's an icon, but he had suspenders on, so, and a jacket. But when things got really bad, that jacket came off and he was just suspenders, and you knew the weather meant business. So there's been a couple of times when in severe weather, and we're doing like hours of coverage or whatever, that jacket comes off, the sleeves go up, and I think the audience kind of knows you mean business when that happens.
Right.
So to answer your question, James Spann obviously is one. Jim Cantori, everybody knows from the Weather Channel.
Yes.
He really pioneered the on-location stuff. A lot of people went out and were like, well, there's a cloud. But Jim was such a relatable, like, this is what it feels like. This is what it smells like. His big thing is thunder snow. I mean,
I was just thinking about that.
He's just so great at, bringing that thing home to make you feel what he's feeling. But a couple times I met him at a conference, and people don't realize he is 5 foot nothing.
Is that
really?
Really? I mean, he's built, he's jacked, but he is really short, short.
I would watch the Weather Channel because he was on.
Exactly.
Not that I was disinterested in weather, but I wouldn't have sat there and watched it for extended periods of time. But when he was on, I was engaged.
Right. Exactly.
Is he still active?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, he's still their marquee talent. But he really revolutionized. I think a lot of us coming up going, okay, this is how it's done.
Bill, do you have any more weather stuff? I want to switch gears.
I was just wondering what attracted you to meteorology.
Well, like I said, I didn't have the traditional path. I fell in love with radio at 7 or 8 years old, and I thought, I always thought that'd be really cool. But I was also the kid that when the thunderstorm was coming, I wanted to be on the front porch when the thunder cracked and the rain was coming down. So I didn't shy away from it. I wanted to be around it. And even in my time in radio, I loved when a big storm was coming, or if we were going to be, holed up at the station for a long snowstorm or a big some kind of a big event. So I think I was always fascinated by the big stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And my friends say, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I am ready for this snowstorm. Yeah. I mean, I'm never ready for it to be 101 degrees out, but but as far as snowstorms and severe weather and weather events, we'll use that again. I'm into that stuff, just as a casual observer.
Go ahead,
I got a question about the snow. I mean, this snow we had just a couple of weeks ago has been a long time since we had one. You have any take on why we've had such little snow in recent years?
Well, the feeling is that you look for the big patterns that way, but also our I always talk about our weather memories are short. So not this past January, but January last year was super cold. But I remember we didn't get much snow last year, and it was like, the winter wasn't very much. When you go back and look at the numbers, January was really cold.
Yeah.
25. So to answer your questions, we were just, you go through these drought years, as we know. I mean, some years have more rain, some have less. But you're right. We were on about a 3-year plan here where winters were mild. They weren't very snowy. But I think it's more of our perception, because you go back to this past one, 2021, we had a foot of snow. So it'd been 5 years,
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me throw out one thing to Joe here, as long as you're mentioning weather events. And this is the one thing that I do get a little frustrated about because of our business, because of the competitiveness, and you guys have been around media. Everything is a weather event.
Okay.
And it's not, and it really, to me, that's the ultimate killing of our credibility is, our bosses are coming to us going, oh, there's a thunderstorm. Well, it's July. It's supposed to be a thunderstorm.
Right.
Yeah.
But they want us to make that a big deal. So that's the one thing we fight on our side is our bosses want us to hype every little thing. And we're like, it's winter. It's supposed to stop.
Right. Right.
But they want the eyes. So you gotta do whatever you can.
But I was curious about why Joe chose that term weather event, because somehow that elevates an afternoon rainstorm to a big deal.
For me, it's an event is when it's hotter than it normally is, deeper than it usually is, comes down harder, blows hard. When something's when there's peril.
When it affects you, Joe. That's
right. That's when it affects me. Then it becomes an event.
Then it's an event, right? Exactly.
So, Tom, I've been to some local galas, fundraisers, big functions, and you've been the MC at a handful of them. When did that all? You do a great job. I mean, a great job. You look like a professional MC up there. That's Bill. Have you seen him in that? Just a few months ago.
He was featured in Harrisburg Magazine, right on the front page.
The Holy Name Gala is one. That's a big one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a big one.
So talk about that. How did you get into that? Do you enjoy that, being in front of hundreds of people? And a lot of them are fundraisers. I think the majority of them probably are. Go ahead.
Mostly charity stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it because I think it comes just from the radio background where so much of radio was stunts and trying to get people excited, and you'd have to get a crowd going. Plus, as a radio person, you were usually DJing on the side, whether it was a wedding or a party. So you kind of learn how to work the audience a little bit. But I really appreciate you saying that, because I do think that is my forte. And fortunately, because of my position, I've been able to do a lot of these important fundraisers. I was really involved with the Leukemia Society for many years, the Heart Association. So they just asked me back again for their heart ball. But to me, it's a way to give back. And, sometimes we get holed up here at a TV station and people know me, but I don't know them. So it gives me a chance to get out and meet people. Plus, I just have a heart for helping people, whether it's raising money or you see a good cause, you want that thing to be successful. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you throw just enough humor in. Okay. No, I mean that though. There's an art to that, not going overboard, but not being really dull and having people just with their jaws hanging down. Just enough humor that it's natural and it's fun to be there and watch you in action. So,
well, thank you.
How about philanthropic interests for you, Tom? I know that you have a couple in particular near and dear philanthropic interests.
Like I mentioned, the Leukemia Society. When I was first here, I met a young couple that had a little daughter, and our daughter they were the same age, and she was diagnosed with cancer at 4. And I looked at my daughter, I looked at her, I'm like, what would I do if my daughter was diagnosed at 4? I wouldn't know where to turn or how to do it. So I really got involved with the Leukemia Society pretty heavily early on, because I saw, what could be my kids' peers going through that. And then you must feel so helpless as a parent. So I did a lot of fundraising for them. I did a couple of marathons and, raising money for them. A lot of events, as you talked about. Over the years, you do a lot of school talks and things. So anything that really helps kids, that's important to me. And as I get older, I think it's important to keep some things alive. And I know as we get into the ages that we are, a lot of these philanthropic groups are dying off. Literally, the people aren't there.
Right.
So if I can help them with an MC event or a fundraiser or something, I want to do that. But I think as a society, unfortunately, we're getting away from that philanthropic thought. Here's my week and it's already filled up before you even start. You're like, oh, wait a minute. So one of the things I do is I help out at the soup kitchen down at St. Francis on Tuesdays. And
where is that at, Tom?
It's right there in Allison Hill and Market Street. So it's St. Francis, which is the church.
I think 14th and Market, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, like 15th and Market. And I did a couple of things with them through my career, and then I got to know some of the priests and the folks that worked down there. But it was really during COVID that I made a commitment to go down, because A, I had the time because we were at home, and B, I'm like, well, what are these people doing for food if they can't go to the store? They can't do that. So that really touched me in a way that was important because it kind of put my life in perspective. That I'm not worried about where I'm going to eat tonight, but these folks are.
Right, Bill.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a couple things. One is social media. I mean, I follow you. You put a lot of effort into it, and you're responsive to people who follow you and all that kind of thing. How does that work with WHP, and just whether they encourage that, or how does it all work?
Well, it's really involved, as you guys know. It's really changed our business entirely because people aren't sitting down and watching the 6 o'clock news anymore. They're getting their news from social media. So as an industry, TV said, well, we have to do our shows, but we also got to be on Facebook. We also got to be on Twitter. I think where we've struggled as an industry is which one of those platforms do we need to be on? And then your boss says you need to be on all of them. So for me, I see so many people like, do Twitter and Instagram and this and that. I've just kind of focused on Facebook and Twitter, just because I can't do it all. I mean, I see a lot of my peers. I just did an Instagram post. I did a Snapchat. I did, and you really see the difference between the guys who are my generation and the young reporters that come in. Their first thought is, I need to post that on Instagram. I need to get that. They're like this right away before you even said hello. So for me, it's really been trying to drag this dinosaur into it. And the other thing is, everybody's there, everybody's doing it. So it's a challenge from the weather standpoint because our competition isn't just the other TV stations anymore. It's some guy in the basement in his underwear who's pushing snowfall amounts, and you're like, that's my competition now.
Do we have any of those guys in the area who do their own reporting?
Oh yes, we have.
Oh really? Okay. All right.
And honestly, the problem comes down to this: is they're going to put out a map tonight that says we're going to get 3 feet of snow 2 weeks from now.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I got to tell people, no, that's not going to happen.
You have to dispel it.
Right. So why do they do that? Well, they have 800,000 followers. So they're going to keep doing it. There's nothing in the ecosystem that tells them if they get it wrong, they're going to be hurt by that.
The more severe or the more exotic or that they can be, the better for that. Yeah.
Unfortunately. So back to your original question, that's what's really changed is, A, where do we have to be? Where are people getting their information? So we've kind of looked at it as a funnel. Hey, we need to be on all these platforms, and then we guide them back to the CBS 21 webpage, basically, because that's kind of where digitally everybody's meeting.
Now, who's helping you out when you produce those bits? It looks like a lot of them. You just say, "We're going to do it." You run on camera. You do whatever it is. Look, but who's helping you out there? Did he freeze up?
I think he froze, but it usually comes back.
There he is.
There he is.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're okay now.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, who's helping you out to produce those bits?
Nobody. I mean, it's just me, and I tried to have some fun. I have 2 little dachshunds that people love to see, so they're called the Weather Weenies. I take pictures of them and show them around. I have stupid figurines on my shelf that I put in weird places, and little Tom, I call him, and we talk about that. And then, of course, the serious weather information too. So I think we're all trying to figure out exactly, what our audience is. As far as the social media stuff goes.
Yeah, and I got to tell you that the time frame when you were with Jasmine Brooks was great. How you two worked together was really entertaining.
Well, she was over the top, as you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't hard to be a personality around her. She's got tons of personality.
But you were like the straight guy, weren't you?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. She's doing great though. She's over at the Home Shopping Network over.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And the other one that I see and she actually helped out with coverage of our roundabout issue is Maxine Rose. She has a pretty good presence on Facebook. Yeah,
she's great. She does a lot of good reporting for us. And honestly, I look to those younger reporters to figure out how to do this because they're so much better than we are.
Now you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
And they're learning from you too. We know that.
Yeah, I guess we are.
The last question I have for you, Tom, is I know during at least one time period you had a brush with the political world. You were considering running for an office. What went on there?
A couple things have come up. The one was when Ron Marsico was leaving the 105th, and folks asked me to go, and that was the closest I've got. And it was really a fascinating thing for me because I got to see, how the inner workings work. And what I was surprised about is how many people that you have to go through to really get to a certain point, which is good. I think it's a good way to vet people and do that. But, it was a big sacrifice for me to put my name out there because I have to quit my job in order to run. So that was the big holdup. But I was also very fascinated by the machinations behind the scenes that, you got to go meet with this guy and you got to get this guy's blessing. And I had to make all these phone calls. And like I said, it's probably a good thing. But there were also a lot of people who were like, wait a minute, I've been in the wings. Why should you get that shot? So there's definitely an interest there. But the closer I got to it, the less I was like, do I really want to do that?
Right. So, Tom, outside of the things we've already discussed, researching and reporting on the weather, emceeing at galas, spending time in schools with students, what do you like to do just to kind of unwind?
I definitely.
You don't have much time left. Let me tell you that. You know that there's not much time left, but
I definitely like working out. I work out at EXP, which is right there in Lower Paxton, with my friend Dave Brixius. Yep. That's always that's an important thing to me. I love to travel. I don't get to do it nearly enough. So whenever I can, I definitely like to travel. I love sports. I don't know if we have time for this.
Seahawks.
You're running out of time, but just so you know.
Tom, I'm ready, man. I prepared for that.
You're ahead of me. It's going to be a cold weekend. You might need a big scarf.
It seems like that Super Bowl is shaping up to be a good game with two good teams.
I hope so. I really hope so. I can't wait.
And Joe, we have a comment from Becky Ryder-Kraft.
Let's read her comment. Becky, thanks for joining us tonight. Not weather related, but nice job on the Red Rabbit video that you and Jimmy did. See, our viewers are fans of yours, Tom. Okay, just so you know that.
Well, Jimmy Rosen, who she's referencing, is he's a nutball, but he actually is pretty good at editing stuff. So he has unfortunately discovered AI, and these videos have taken on a whole new life. So we like to get around. One of the things Jimmy and I like to do is really promote local businesses. I think she's referring to the Red Rabbit up there in Duncannon. And,
yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to support local businesses that are just trying to make it.
I think they just reopened this past weekend. I forgot that they start that early.
In February, you're like, why? Why would you do this? And then you drive by and they're packed. You're like,
right. I go 2 or 3 times every year. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. What is Jimmy Rosen doing now? Because his shop in Duncannon, that factory, is closed down, isn't it?
Yeah, but Jimmy's got one of these guys that got his hands in a million different pots in a good way. I mean, he's the first guy to help somebody out. He's actually doing some car storage up there in the old building. So he has his own little collection, which I find pretty fascinating. But yeah, he's got a lot of things going on kind of behind the scenes. And
is that tower still in operation? The fire tower? Does he still do that?
Well, it's there. It's not in operation.
Okay.
Per se. I've been up it, and it's a fascinating.
Is this old Sledworks you were talking about here?
Yeah, old Sledworks is.
I'm not trying to interrupt, but I just wanted to make sure that the viewers knew what we were.
Yeah, his basically his compound, I call it in Duncannon, is the old place. Old Sledworks. It's a fascinating building.
Oh man!
And then Bill mentioned they got the big tower there, so yeah, it's kind of a cool thing.
So here's something that not many can lay claim to. And I mean, you might be the only person I ever met that can. An Emmy Award.
Yeah,
that's a big deal, man.
Well, it is local television.
I don't care what it is. I don't even have an Emmy Award in my house for what I do in my own house. So you know, I don't care how local or how. Talk about it, the Emmy Award, how you earned it, and how did it make you feel when you won it or received it?
Yeah, I have 2. One was basically weathercast. You put on some highlights in a couple of your weathercasts, and then your peers vote on that. And of course, what makes it tough for us is we're up against Pittsburgh and Philly, and it's statewide as far as that goes. So that's a very satisfying thing to win that. The other one was for our flood coverage a couple of years ago that we won. So that was a little more team oriented, but those are satisfying. I think as you get older, you don't worry about those things, those accolades as much as you did maybe when you were younger. But it's always nice to be recognized by your peers, and people appreciate your work. So.
And you had to go up against so many quality TV meteorologists to win that too. That's the thing, that.
Yeah, that's what makes it so satisfying. You're like, I can hang with these guys. And
right.
You definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So let me ask you guys some questions.
Go ahead, Tom.
You guys are like the new age journalists. So how does it feel to be on your end? Do you feel like you guys have almost taken the baton from old school TV and radio guys?
Bill, I'm going to cede to you because you've been doing this for a couple decades. I've been doing it for, I think, 11 years. So you have me by a bunch.
Yeah, well, this is my fourth try at local news here with Lincolnstown Gazette. So this time around, a lot more activity, and thank God the roundabout situation came. That sort of put us on the map this time around. It's interesting, Tom. The Patriot News, PennLive.com, and other news outlets are now watching Lincolnstown Gazette to find out what's going on.
Well, so I think that's the big breakthrough that you're having is, the stuff that TV and Patriot News and all are not covering, certainly on a daily basis, there's an opening for that, the citizen journalism kind of thing.
Yeah. So my big challenge now is to get a handful of community watchdogs, because the way I'm running it is on a volunteer basis. So we don't have to pay anyone and have those salaries. So that's my next big challenge. It's been pretty much me and a handful of other people that have been populating the thing with Facebook with information. So now that I'm not working day by day for an employer, that's where my emphasis is going to be.
What we do though, Tom, or have done a handful of times over maybe the past 6 to 9 months is we'll get together and come up with like a top 10 list. And it's the top 10 things that we think people in our area are concerned with. They want to hear more about, they want to see addressed. And it's been, Roundabout, Colonial Park Mall, Central Dauphin School District Board, Lower Paxton Township Board.
Yeah,
there's four. There's four right there.
And they're big deals.
Yeah, they are. I mean, even the Roundabout, even if it wasn't all that important, and it's not as important as some of the other, it's important to the people that live in our area.
Right.
Okay. And Bill really, he did a great job at kind of shedding light on that. And Bill brought me into this. I was very impressed with what Bill was doing. I think we met 10 years ago or so, Bill.
Yeah.
And I saw Lincolnstown Gazette just from being on Facebook. I thought, wow, this is really neat. He had like arts and leisure, local politics. It was like a magazine. It was like an online magazine. I think you even called it that, Bill.
Yeah.
So I sent him an inbox message. I said, hey, do you ever do sports? And he's like, no, I don't have time. I don't really have the background for it. He said, how would you like to join me? I said, oh, well, that's not what I,
sorry.
Yeah. And he said, why don't we meet for coffee and we'll talk about it? And you know what? How could I say no to that? And we met for coffee and he signed me up and we've been really good friends ever since. And so that's kind of how I got into it, only because of Bill.
Well, I love what you guys are doing. And I think it really is that reset, or whatever you want to call it, as far as how people are getting their news, that it's important that we still have that citizen journalism, kind of approach to things, because so many people in our industry, it was just about being on TV. And I think we need to get back to the journalism, telling stories part, that we've forgotten a little bit.
Right. Bill?
That's it. I'm just glad you took the time, Tom, to come. You've been on my list to get on this show for a while, so I'm glad we're able to get you on here. You were
on the list of the list, okay? like we have a short list, then we have a long list. And I said to Bill like a month ago, I go, we really have to get Tom Russell on. And I think, Bill, you did reach out to him. So thank you so much. We know that you work at night, and if you're not reporting on the weather, you might be doing an MC job. So this is a tough time for a guy like you, 7 o'clock. And we know that, and we respect that you gave us some.
Yeah. And could I throw in one more weather question, Tom? I didn't get it.
Sure.
how much do you depend on the National Weather Service as opposed to your own analysis?
Well, remember, we all share the same, when we say models and stuff, the government is the one who owns those models, who run those models. So weather service is important from where we get all our data standpoint. We can still put our own, forecast together,
right.
But it's very important. I mean, that whole network of how we get information and how they're the ones that issue the warnings and the watches and all that. So yeah, it's still a very symbiotic relationship. We're not in competition with them by any means. It's more of a partnership. So I would say they're very important.
And what does it mean when you're using the National Meteorologist Service, for lack of a better term, in State College?
That's the weather service that Bill's talking to. So if you look at the whole country has a weather office, National Weather Service office that covers that area. Ours happens to be in State College. They go all the way from the New York border down to the Maryland border, and then the next office over would be Pittsburgh. For Philly, it's in Mount Holly. So that's how they cover the entire country.
Okay. All right. Chief Meteorologist Tom Russell, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us, guys. I need to leave you with one little thing here, though, if you remember.
Okay. We didn't forget.
You got to be the top Seahawk fan in Harrisburg.
There aren't many, so it's your time, Tom. We really, I'm rooting for you, and I really am. I like the team a lot. I like the team a lot. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Go get yourself a bite to eat.
Will do.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, Bill. Man, that was good. I say this after every show. I don't set expectations. I never set expectations for shows, but had I set any for this show, I would have been way under what Tom brought to the show. And I know that that our viewers are going to be very, very happy with this episode for sure. So, all right, Bill, I think that's it for now. And now we have until the 18th. Let's just remind the viewers that on the 18th, Wednesday, the 18th, we're going to be talking about Colonial Park Mall, another one of our top 10. We haven't put a top 10 list together for a while, Bill.
Well,
a lot of them just carry over, though. I mean, a lot of them we haven't really gotten to the bottom of, or they're still kind of hot topics, so they don't change.
I'm learning bit by bit about the mall, and I tell you, it's a fascinating story. I mean, if you put it on, it'd be a great feature or article in a magazine, or there's a lot of angles and different things happen there that where if it's going to change and be hang in there and survive.
So before we break off, anything with Linglestown Gazette notable that you want to talk about, upcoming or?
Well, the couple things. One would be my volunteer crime reporter, Linda Spots, has been working the smoke shop, vape shop issues primarily with
Bill. That's her wheelhouse, isn't it?
Well, it just sort of fell into it with the raid that the Dauphin County DA did, and it was really more about kids. Kids getting this stuff, and there've been deaths and different things out of these smoke shops.
It's really bad.
And actually, Representative Scott Perry was just on Facebook talking about a hearing he was in. So she did a in-depth study of what's happening. We're going to be getting that out here in the next 24 hours or so.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And then the other thing is just to, anyone that has a little bit of interest in their community, I'm telling you, we could use their help to be a community watchdog. We're not looking for reporters, the people to write stories, but people to keep an eye on certain things in the community. And I used to call it micro tasks. Just pick one meeting a month to go and keep an eye on what's happening. That would be fine. I mean, one time a month. And if you want to do more, that's great too. So we're going to be looking for people to join up on that.
All right, Bill, thank you so much. Let's thank our sponsors once again, the American Legion Post 272 on North Mountain Road, Team PA, AAU Basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. Thanks again to these great local businesses for their continued support. Bill, thank you very much. We can hopefully walk together soon at Colonial Park Mall.
Yeah, next week. Friday, I'm pretty busy, but next week.
Why don't we meet up early next week, and we'll try to track somebody down in there and see if they want to join us on the show.
Sounds good. Yep.
All right, Bill.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.